G'day and welcome to another video with Better Pics. Hope this finds you all well. Today we're going to have a look at the effects panel, and more specifically within the effects panel, the texture, clarity and dehaze. Now these are great tools. Admittedly, they're not tools that I use often, but when I do use them, I really appreciate that they're there because I find that they really help me get the edits done within some tricky images that, they help me give me results that I wouldn't otherwise be able to achieve with the other tools that are available. All right, let's have a look at some of the options. So what we're going to do first is just hover over each of the tools and have a look at what the description is. So if we have a look at texture, enhance or reduce the appearance of texture in your photo. Move left to soften portraits. Move right to enhance landscapes. Excellent. Let's have a look at clarity. Changes the contrast around the edges of the objects in your photo. Now, I'm assuming that those edges are the edges that are what would be considered to be in focus. So you can see in this image, for example, there's edges of the flowers that are in focus, and there's a lot of areas that are out of focus, a very shallow depth of field. Move left to soften the edges, move right to increase edge contrast. So yeah, as expected, clarity is looking at edge contrast for areas of the image that are in focus. And dehaze, move left to add simulated haze, move right to remove haze. Now, this is a really interesting one, and I've used it on a couple of images, and I'm incredibly grateful that it was there because it really did make a big difference. All right, let's have a look at the texture first. We're just going to go all the way to the left. And you can see that it is softening the image quite a bit. So it's giving quite a painterly sort of feel. And I mean, if you were wanting to create an edit for an image that wasn't necessarily grounded in a realistic representation of the subject, then this could be a really good way to go. The thing I like about the texture, clarity and dehaze is that you get some really interesting results if you take it to extreme. Now, I'm normally an advocate for really just applying edits that work for the images, and that's from the perspective of having a realistic representation as a photograph. But if you're wanting a more creative approach to your image making, then pushing these a little bit further may be a really good way to go. All right, texture, we're going to go the other way, and you can see it's really adding a lot of texture, and that effect is quite strong. This could also work really well depending on what effect that you're wanting to get, but obviously you just want to use that slider to take the image to wherever it is that you want to take it. All right, what we're going to do, because this one is recommended for use with portraits, we're actually going to go to a portrait that I used in a recent video, all the way along here. And what we're going to do is zoom into 100% so that we can really see the detail. So we're looking at pixel by pixel. And with the texture, we're just going to take that to the negative, and you can see that it is actually softening a lot of the lines in this gentleman's face. Now, there is a lot of texture in this image, particularly with his beard and his skin, but you can really see that negative texture is just softening those lines, and certainly for portraits it could be a really good way to go, and that's regardless of the portrait. As always, any effect that you put on your images, then you just want to apply that to the point to where you get the result that you're looking for. All right, let's have a look. Let's zoom back out. If we really take it to an extreme level, you can see, in my opinion, it doesn't work for this image. Texture, I think, is, when using in portraits, is just a little bit of application can really help to bring the image out, but you don't want to go too far. Let's have a look at another image. So this one is a nice macro shot of some grass reeds on a winter's day down in Tasmania. You can see the ice crystals on the edges there. So with clarity, we're just going to take it all the way to the left. Again, let's take it to the extreme so we really see the effect. And you can see that clarity is really affecting the entire image and giving it quite almost a blurred sort of diffused look with the lighting, for want of better words. So again, for this effect, I wouldn't take it to the extreme, but you can see as I move it along the slider there, it really does have an interesting effect. Let's go the other way, and yeah, quite strong, that contrast on those on most parts of the image. So again, depending on your image and the outcome that you're hoping to achieve, you might just use a balanced approach to how that works and how that looks on your particular image. All right, this last one I photographed in Italy, and we can see some morning smoke and fog. This was photographed in winter. So for this image, we're going to have a look at the dehaze effect, and it's the perfect image to look at it. The interesting thing about using the dehaze with this image is I actually really like the results regardless of where on the scale I place the edit. So this is the image as it was shot, so we've got some edits that are applied to it, but you can see we've got no dehaze applied at all. Now if we take it all the way to the left, you can see that it really adds a haze, so it increases the haze that's there, and I kind of like it. I like that there's just a few little textural trees and everything sort of coming through that haze. But if we take it all the way to the right, you can see the amount of detail that we get with that dehaze tool that comes out is quite amazing. And look, I love it. I think I love this image more with dehaze applied, because we get all of these layers and this depth of parts of the image that we otherwise didn't see, and I think it's just stunning. So let's just go back to the default. That was the image without any dehaze applied, and again, if we slide that all the way to the right, we'll take it to the extreme. That's probably a little bit too much for me. Again, it's seasoned to taste. But if we just come back a little bit, I think it's still, we're able to enjoy the softness of that morning smoke and that morning fog, but we're really also able to see through the image with more texture and more detail right down to the very back. So Dehaze is a really interesting tool. Out of the three, Dehaze is probably the one that I use the most, but of course it all comes down to the images that you're capturing and what result you're looking for. So grab some images, jump into Lightroom, have a play with the texture, clarity and dehaze, and check out what effects you get. See if it's going to add anything to your workflow and your image outcomes. And look, if there's nothing that you need them for in the short term, keep them in the back of your mind, because they might really help in the edit in the future. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks as always for stopping by. Questions as always are welcome in the comments below, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.